There is a brand new D&D book coming out. It is Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel, and one of the locations, one of the adventures is yours. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, so my location is called Tzatzitlan. It's basically a homage to Mexico. I try to make it, base it off my experiences growing up in the north of Mexico, because Mexico is just like a very diverse country, so it's impossible to just represent all of it in a single place. So the approach that I took was just take from my experiences and try to make it as genuine to my experience as a Mexican as possible. It's, it has a lot of references to history and culture and places that I just grew up sort of with. The city itself is an industrial, magical place that is located at a confluence of magical ley lines that makes it very rich in, I guess, resources, magical resources, that has made it very easy to sort of evolve economically and grow through a process. They produce minerals, they produce all sorts of magical commodities, and they also attract a lot of people from outside. So it's also a trade hub. However, it's located at the center of this sort of very barren, arid sort of a place that the people in there call the borderlands, which is technically also part of Tzatzitlan, but it's located outside the city itself. And yeah, all of that is sort of very true to the place that I grew up in, which is kind of like this big city surrounded by deserts.
What is the hook for the adventure? Like how do players suddenly get involved in this location?
Right. So my adventure, The Fiend of Hollow Mine, basically starts with the players realizing that one of the places outside of Tzatzitlan, like one of the villages in the borderlands, is suffering from a strange disease. They become involved in this by noticing the suffering of the people there, and from there they meet some of the people who are trying to make a change around the area. They're called the revolutionaries, and they are trying to sort of work through this magical disease that is kind of like ravaging the people out there. With that, they become involved in an investigation. So, it's, the title of the adventure, The Fiend of Hollow Mine. So you can probably guess that there's fiends involved. But from that, it's up to the players to figure out what's causing it.
What was important to capture in this adventure for you?
I really, really wanted to show sort of like the, I guess, diversity and I guess disparity would be a better word, which is like, the players go from outside of the city where the people are struggling and they are living this sort of like very harsh life and environment, but somehow in their own way, surviving. And then the investigation of the adventure takes them through, kind of like a dungeon crawl through the mines of the area, and eventually they reach the city. So by the time they reach the city is going through its most important festival of the year, which is called the Night of the Remembered, and they see all of this sort of, I guess, celebration and thriving. So to me, the themes of the adventure, it was very important to sort of showcase the struggle of the people outside the city and the revelry of the people inside. And that sort of contrast and balance was kind of like really important for me to showcase.
And what is the Night of the Remembered?
So the Night of the Remembered is, since the city is located in sort of these magical crossroads, the Night of the Remembered is one of the things that everyone in the city has access to. It's actually several nights, but the festival is named Night of the Remembered. It's a time during which people can, be visited by the deceased loved ones by following a very specific ritual that involves, setting up an altar, setting up an image of their loved ones, placing some offerings, and through that they can, if the spirit is willing of the person, they can be visited by them, talk to them, hang out with them for a night. Some of them, the way that I imagine it is that, spirits are different, and some people might only experience sort of maybe a message or a connection, a feeling, and some spirits just outright just come back and they're like, "Hey, I'm here." so, so yeah, it's that fact that part of the city's history and magic evolved over the years into this festival that the people celebrate with the dead that come back, and that is the Night of the Remember.
Is there a villain? Is there a monster? Is there something? How does this all tie together? And I love the festival because I'm a very big fan of in D&D undead, and I don't always enjoy the idea that they're characterized as evil. I like the idea of good undead,
right?
And I think there's a charm to that. But how does this all kind of tie together? Like, is there a big bad? Is there a villain? What's gone wrong?
Yeah. So the main sort of antagonist in the adventure is a titular Fiend. However, there's a sort of mystery around it. Like, what is this creature? Where does it come from? Everything points to a mine that the players sort of go and investigate what's happening. But there's a mystery as to like what brought this Fiend to the to this area, and why is it I guess affecting the people the way it is.
What are some of the NPCs and the monsters that you've put into this, without spoiling too much?
Yeah. Well, I'll start with the NPCs. My favorite NPC is Paloma. She's a gnome revolutionary, and she is really old. She has basically gone through so much in her life. She used to be a successful rancher in the area, but she was eventually accused of a crime she didn't commit, and when she was arrested, she tried to defend herself, and she was accused of, an even higher crime, which was murder. So she eventually had to flee and became an outlaw, and through that life, she ended up joining the revolutionaries and becoming a sort of like an important figure, sort of like a Robin Hood-ish figure in that area. When the players encounter her, she's the one that introduces them to the adventure, and she's the one that basically lets them know of the goings-on of the region. And when the players encounter her, she's in bad shape because she's dealing with this thing that's going on in the town, and she's affected by it as well. So,
and what is that thing? There's a disease?
Yes. So the disease is called Sereno. It is basically a magical disease that inflicts supernatural cold on those who are afflicted by it. And the unique thing about this disease is that it's deadly at night. Whenever creatures are exposed to it and they're not in sunlight, it basically treats them as if they were dying of cold. And eventually, if they're not exposed to sunlight, they die. There's also a component of like, magic interacts with it in a different way. Even magic that cures diseases can't affect this disease unless the sun is there. So this is sort of a very, it's a deadly disease for, commoners, but it can also be deadly for adventurers, because just dealing with this thing at night can be just deadly to anyone. So this is something that the players will need to sort of navigate around. That's one of the choices that is presented in the adventure, whether they go around the night and try to fix this as soon as possible, or if they wait until it's the day and they don't have to deal with the most dangerous part of it anymore. But then, by that time, more people could die. So
Is it known? It's pretty early on that there is some kind of entity, some kind of monster out there.
yes, so this is kind of like right around the time when the players are exposed to the fact that this magical disease is happening. They learn that there is a fiend, an owl-like fiend, that is sort of been terrorizing the borderlands, and it's called the Tlacatecolo, and that is it basically means owl person in the old language of the people there. So the thing that the people are fearing is that this creature can take the shape of a normal owl. So any owl can be this creature, and there's a lot of fear and a lot of I guess distrust going around with this creature inflicting this disease.
What is the thing you want people to get out of this adventure the most? Because this is going to be very strange. Yeah. All these people are going to be, thousands of people are going to be like running your adventure. What is that going to be like?
Wow. I hope that everyone, as I mentioned before, I hope that everyone makes it their own. I'm very curious to know what everyone sort of focuses on the adventure, because there's a lot of points where you could sort of like either expand. You know how when you're running D&D and sort of players sort of fixate on this one thing, and you're like, oh well, I guess this is the adventure now. So, yeah. So I'm really curious about how that's going to go for other people, because there's a lot that can be explored there. Like adventurers could, there's a point where they have to travel between the village and the mine, but there's like a patch of borderlands that they have to travel there. So the possibility for adventure is there from the beginning. And then, once they go through the mines and go into the city, there's all sorts of wondrous things there. So I'm just really wondering what everyone will sort of focus on, and I'm really looking forward to learning what that is.
If you liked this interview and you'd like to see more, go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that little bell symbol so you're notified anytime a video like this comes out. Thank you so much for watching.